From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spangle, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. The Chicago Cubs stole the ivy from Busch Stadium in Indianapolis.
Busch Stadium had ivy on its walls, and they wanted the same thing at Wrigley Field.
Imitation's the best form of flattery.
On the show today is Randy Lewandowski, president and newly appointed CEO of the Indianapolis Indians, and Cheyne Reiter, director of communications for the Indians. On today's show, we're going to learn some more about Indianapolis' oldest sports franchise, the Indians, the evolution of sports and entertainment over the last 30 years, and what makes Victory Field and the Indians a staple in our community. Randy, Cheyne, welcome to Get In.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Nate.
Yes. I mean, anytime someone does something, Randy was saying this before we went on air, if you've done something for 30 years, it's either you're really smart or, maybe not so smart. So,
yeah, I'd like to think I've been dumb enough to stick around, but they've been dumber enough to keep me, is what I like to tell people. So,
well, take us back then. Let's start it kind of at the beginning. All right, you've been doing this for 30 years, from intern to president and CEO. What did that team look like? What did the organization look like when you joined as an intern back in 1994?
Yes. I can't even describe how different the organization is, how minor league baseball is, and everything else. I was probably like a lot of current college students that thought, hey, I want to work in sports. And you had absolutely no idea what that meant. I would have thought back then, hey, if I'm going to be the general manager, I'm making trades, we're signing free agents, we're going to do all that kind of stuff. That's how I would have thought I was going to get started. Back then in the early to mid 90s, sports management programs weren't really a thing. There were a couple in the country. Now I think virtually every university has one of those programs. So that's a big change too. Was fortunate enough to get an internship. As always, you send in your resume blind, you start to make some connections and weave it in. At the time, the Indians had 7 full-time employees. To put that in perspective, we now have 55. And that's over the course of 30-plus years. Fortunate to get an internship. They didn't really have a formal program. It's if they needed some additional help, we'd hire a few people. And candidly, when we say ticket intern, it was also, I was a receptionist, the front door man, because the box office at Busch Stadium, which isn't far from where we're recording this, it was a catch-all, and this was before voicemail. We didn't have a computerized ticket system. So you talk about learning the ground floor and being a labor of love. We used to handwrite messages, phone messages, because we didn't have voicemail. Just crazy things that has spanned my career. But anyway, the real point is I got into it. I love the action, the atmosphere, putting on an event. You get juiced when you open up the gates. That still resides with me today, and I think that's why I'm still in it. Because if you don't, when you're in live sports, entertainment, whatever it is, if you don't get excited about your product and what you do, and you start to welcome in those fans or those guests, then it's time to get out.
Well, and you went to Anderson. You were on the baseball team there for 4 years. So was it like an easy transition of like, I've been around baseball, I want to work in baseball, or was it just like, I need a job, I want to work in sports? Like, what kind of drew you into the Indians org?
I think candidly, I didn't. Anderson's 30 or 45 minutes from downtown Indianapolis, and I kind of heard of the Indianapolis Indians. We'll probably talk about this guy later. I'd kind of heard of this guy named Razor Shines, but not like it was common knowledge. Like if we asked people in the market to raise your hands, are you familiar with the Indianapolis Indians? I think we'd get a really good brand recognition. In the early to mid 90s, it wasn't that way, especially as you got into the outer counties outside of Indianapolis and things like that. So that's really how it's evolved, and that was part of our move to downtown. So it was just, the baseball thing, it matters a little bit now with some of the things that I do, because I'm a liaison with our manager and the Pirates and things like that. But boy, to be in a front office anymore, the disciplines are so specialized that, you don't have to have played baseball or a sport. But yeah, I lean towards baseball because I was a baseball player and it seemed more natural, but it's the hardest of all the sports to work in, and it's because of the grind. We play 75 home games at the AAA level. It's 81 home games at the major league level. We call it a lifestyle business, and that's what, when you're young and dumb, you don't know really what that means. We try to educate youngsters when they want to get into it with what a lifestyle business means, and you learn that real quick, that when your buddies just out of college are coming down on the weekends to enjoy a game or on a weeknight or a holiday, we're working. And it's gotten better over the years as far as that demand, but you're still jumping into crazy hours, long hours, because that's what it demands. And you either like it or you don't. So that was the big thing that I didn't know. But I knew that I wanted to get up every day and go to the ballpark to work when I was young, and that's still with me today.
Well, talking about young and dumb, then we'll go into. So Shane's been with the Indians now for 7 years,
Yeah.
right? And I know firsthand, it's like as I'm going down to the ballpark to enjoy a game on a Tuesday, a Thursday, a Saturday, like Shane's there working. So this is like let's say 7 years. So how long have you been in baseball, like working at a stadium?
Yeah, when I was going into my last semester at the University of Iowa back in 2013, I got my first internship that summer with a rookie level team in Virginia. So go all the way back to 13, and it's been every year since.
Okay, so
this
11?
is 11 seasons.
So what?
Don't count 2020.
What was the difference then? What did you see versus Randy starting in 1994 versus starting in 2013, 2014? Still that same grind? Still the same 75? I did not know it was 75 home games. That's a wild amount.
I can say that we had voicemail when I started. We had email. Seeing social media evolve, I would say for my role specifically, just being in media relations and communications pretty much from day one when I first got into the minors, and now here in Indianapolis, it's actually the 4th minor league team I've been with. But just seeing that evolve, especially in my time just being in Indy, is where when I started, we had 2 graphic designers, and they were churning out everything in park for what you see on the video boards, what you might see on billboards when you're driving around the Circle City, and then on occasion making a graphic or 2 for social media just for us to have something to mix up from our typical photos we would run. Now you look at our creative team and it's a full house. You've got a full-time videographer, 2 dedicated graphic designers, a creative director, an intern. So it's gone from 2 graphic designers to 5 people who are very specialized in what they do. And now if you follow our social channels, it's fun. It's fun to see what we're able to put out.
Subtle plug to go follow all their social media. It is fun. Like I just saw the Caitlin Clark on the video board. Like that's just like relevant to the community, right? Like that's just so impactful.
For sure.
So we're going to dive more into that and all the fun and innovative stuff. We had Jeff Samolian on. He's the founder of MS Communications, and he was the owner of the Seattle Mariners for a while. And he talked about like innovating in baseball is hard, but if you do it right, it can really pull people in. And we'll get into that a little bit further on down the show. Randy, I want to talk about from going to intern all the way to president and CEO. Talk to us about that journey and what kept you sticking around with the Indians from 7 to 55 employees and just that overall journey there.
Yeah, I think the general impetus is that the organization has a mindset of taking care of our employees. That would have started back in the mid-90s. Even though salaries weren't great, I didn't get it in for the money, and nobody should be getting into baseball or minor league baseball for the money. We can do well, and I think that's one of the things over the course of my time is that they used to just be jobs. They're now careers, and that spans even from when we had 7 people now to 55. And I think that's a big thing, to see that evolve.
Where do you feel like that transition came from them being jobs to them being careers?
I think is one, when we moved to Victory Field, and just the evolution of minor league baseball becoming bigger than it used to be. The barnstorming tour. Indy's been fortunate. We've had a team for 120 plus years of professional baseball, but there are markets where they would flare up and a team would be there for 3 or 5 or 7 or 10 years, and then they would move. And there was a lot of, they called them barnstorming, and they would move around into different locales across the country. And when you do that, it's hard to put down roots and really invest in your people and in your community and everything else. Indianapolis was different. That starts with Max Schumacher way back in the day when he started with the Indians in the 50s. And I just think that is what intrigued me the most. And we still say it feels like family, because you spend so much time at the ballpark and with those people, and I just enjoyed that. So I think that was probably the one of the biggest things of why I wanted to stick around. I'd be remiss to say that there weren't a time or two in my career where I tried to look around the corner and see what else was out there. Everybody, it doesn't matter whether if you're in baseball or wherever your career is, there are certain times when you feel like you hit a plateau or you're capped because there's somebody above you that isn't going to leave. And that's, I guess, if there's career advice, is sometimes you just need to be patient. Sometimes it does make sense to look. I did look a couple times. I was fortunate enough that those didn't work out, and I stayed. And then it seemed like shortly thereafter, opportunities opened up. And whether that is somebody else got moved up, left, that always just creates opportunities. And that's what we and I told the staff here just a couple weeks ago when we made these adjustments, is that there's a couple guys and folks moving up. All that does is going to create opportunity for some people. And that's what happened to me also early in my career. And again, I've been fortunate enough that they've been willing to have me and letting me grow and taking on new responsibilities throughout the years.
Well, I think that when people think about working in sports, right, it does seem super glamorous, right? It's like these athletes. We're talking about Paul Skeens is in town right now. First overall pick, MLB. Like, this is a really big deal for baseball. But it's not all of the glitz and the glamour and all those things. Talk to us about like different roles you both have had, and what the realistic aspect of working in sports, especially at a AAA level, looks like.
Well, we try to operate as the 31st Major League team. We're not shy in saying that we try to run things at a very high level. But more than anything, if you're in sports, it's a grind. You guys are wrestling coaches, right? It's the grind, right? Oh. And who can step up during the grind? Who can you count on? We're not, I say this all the time, we're not rocket scientists. We're putting on fun, entertainment, and those are the things that we focus on. And I mean, we sell tickets, we sell hot dogs, we like to sell some beers, those kinds of things, but it's everything else that goes around that. Planning and programming 75 different events. That's what we have. We have 75 different games, and each one of those is its own unique event. That takes a lot of bandwidth in the off. People ask us all the time, so what do you do in the off season? Well, in the old days when I first started in the mid '90s, when we closed the gates the last game of the year, there was quite a bit of downtime. Anymore, I think we're busier in the off season as far as work product. In season, it's execution. And I see Cheyne nodding his head. That means that it resonates throughout our staff and everything else, because we're planning 75 different events, like I said, and there's a lot that goes into it, and we can get into some of those specifics about some of our promotions. But we just had Bluey and Bingo. That started last July or August, to find out who controls those characters, who has the trademarks, who has the rights, and to negotiate and to sign contracts and to get the characters, and then how we're going to build that out. And then we tried something new where we put that on sale specifically in January, that one game. We've never done that, especially for an April game, right, Cheyne? Mm-hmm. And it was successful. And then to have almost 12,000 people on a Sunday in April shows all that hard work paid off.
So for someone who doesn't know what Bluey and Bingo is, can I get a little context here?
Well, since
I've got a kid on the way, so I might find out here soon.
On the way, as in tomorrow. As in tomorrow.
I mean, they're two cartoon characters based out of Australia that have. I liken it to when my kids were young, SpongeBob. Different, has some adult humor, much like SpongeBob, but enamors the kids. And we've done cartoon characters ad nauseum over the 25 years we've been at Victory Field or plus. The most popular thing. We had more kids in the ballpark this past Sunday than we've ever had for any event or any game. It was unbelievable.
It was a madhouse.
And so let's just talk through this then, right? This is an idea. Where does it start? Who comes to the staff meeting and says, you know what we need is these two Australian cartoon characters at Victory Field?
It was staffers about Shane's age that have young kids, and we're thinking about, all right, what's new, what's hot, what can we think about? And I had to get educated on who Bluey and Bingo were, because I didn't have any idea, because my kids have aged out of that. But then you start asking around, and then I remember talking to one of our board members, and he's like, oh, my grandkids love Bluey and Bingo. And that was almost like an affirmation that a 70 or 75-year-old board member who has grandkids is backing that. So it's just, there's so many things like that, and you strike gold. We were one of the first ones to have them in the market, and it took off. Well,
that's innovation, right? We're talking about innovation right there in the product that you guys are putting out there. 75 home games, and it's like, as a sports guy, like I enjoy sports. It's like I'm there to like watch a baseball game, but I never really like thought about the different activations and promos, and it's interesting to hear 30 years ago, 25 years ago, was that what were the activations like back then, and where have you kind of seen this innovation come, and what are ways you guys are crushing it? So this is a 3-part question, right? What are ways that you guys are crushing it, and who else do you see across the country that's just really innovative in the product that they're putting out, whether it's baseball or hockey or whatever it could be?
I would always just say imitation's the biggest form of flattery. We do some copying. I would say we've been on the leading edge. We started the Marvel superheroes, if that was, Shane, maybe when you arrived.
14, 15.
Yeah. So we started that, and everything has its cycle. We feel we've got a couple more this year, but we're always looking at what's new and what's next.
I think having the bananas out last summer opened us up internally to have those discussions, and we're never going to go full bananas. I mean, that's just not our product, but they do some things that it's like, okay, how can we adapt and have this as part of pregame entertainment or between inning entertainment or postgame before we shoot off fireworks every Friday night. So seeing some things that they do, and I've obviously great successes. They travel the country here over the last couple of summers. It just opens up doors for us too.
Was that the single most expensive ticket to a game at Victory Field?
On the secondary market, for sure.
On the secondary,
yeah. Those tickets were $150, $200. Like
Yeah.
it was impossible to get one.
Yeah, I know 4th of July for us, we're always home on the 4th. We are again this year as well. I know some people that have bought secondary tickets. If we announce that it is a sellout, that they've spent close to $200 to come to an Indians game on the 4th.
Oh wow!
So I'm like, hey, we got lawn seats for $12, and you're ponying up to come out on the 4th. Good for you.
There we go.
It's all about timing.
Yeah.
Nate, so the one thing you said is that you're a baseball guy, you're a sports guy, you're there for the live action. Well, I played baseball. Shane played sports in college as well. That wasn't the hardest part, but it certainly had to change your mind that the product's important. Yeah, we have Paul Skeens, we've had Andrew McCutcheon, we've had Garrett Cole, we've had other really high-level players, both for the Indians and from our visiting teams and everything else. We still have core baseball fans, but to attract the masses and the hundreds of thousands that we bring downtown into Victory Field every year, it has to go beyond that. Because these players, Skeens is great. He's a unicorn, and he's transformational for the talent that he brings to the mound. But at the end of the day, he's not going to be Indies because we're a AAA team, and it's transient, right? They're here for a time honing their skills before they go to the major leagues. That's what's different. Whereas we can talk about Caitlin Clark. She's going to be, she's Iowa, and they're going to own her as long as they can from that perspective. But now it's the Indiana Fever, and so now, but it's the top level, and so there's a difference there. So we've pumped Skeens when he's going to pitch, and we've seen a bump in attendance and everything else. But that's pure baseball fans. Bluey and Bingo, that hits the whole market.
That's so interesting to think about. Because it's like, if you had to guess, let's say 10,000 fans walk in on a Sunday. How many of them know
where we're at in the standings?
Where you're at in the standings, where the record is. Like, how many true baseball fans versus like, oh, this is just something fun to do?
I think we say internally 5-10%.
Yeah, I'd say the Indian
season ticket holders for sure.
In the industry, they say 60 to 70% will walk out. Not sure if we won or lost, and some of them will leave earlier. Some of them will leave early. Though with the pitch clock, that's shrunk that because game times are shorter and better, and the pace of the game is better. But that takes a while for sports fans to get your arms around and recognize. But we can't ever forget about the baseball aspect because we are a professional baseball team. So
absolutely,
it's a weird marriage and how we weave it all together to make it happen. And I think our staff has done a phenomenal job.
It makes it harder, in my opinion, from an outsider's perspective, because you have to focus on the Bluey and the Bingos just as much as you focus on the Paul Skeens, right? And more than likely, you're not going to get that many perennial talents like Paul Skeens. Like what? When McCutcheon was a few years ago, 2 or 3?
A while back.
Oh no, not McCutcheon. Sorry, who was the Ellie?
De La Cruz.
De La Cruz.
yeah.
He was like a pretty big name. Has done pretty well in the MLB.
O'Neal Cruz, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ellie too, but he was with Louisville.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
We had O'Neal.
Sorry, O'Neal.
Cruz, both ending Cruz.
Yes, that's the one I was going for. O'Neal Cruz. Because he was like 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So it's like every now and again you're going to get like a really good baseball talent. But year in and year out, it's like you got to put together an entertainment product for the masses.
You have to have a robust promotional calendar. And that, like he said, all the planning for the next season, that starts here in June, July, because there are the deadlines that you have to meet to be in front if you want to have a giveaway, if you want to wear a specialty jersey or have some sort of merch that you sell. Like, it's not just, hey, we're having Bluey out, and that week of we announced, well, we've got this jersey that's Bluey in the team store. Not that we have that, but just giving an example of it doesn't just happen on a dime. I mean, it's months in advance to then execute, as Randy attested to in season, where there might be some tweaks here and there. We announced, just yesterday that Bluey and Bingo are coming back in August, and that was planned internally for months. We knew that was going to happen, but we wanted to see what Sunday looked like, and it was awesome with 12,000 fans. But then, oh, by the way, very next day we're going to say, well, because of this popularity, because of the demand of fans to see Bluey and Bingo, we're bringing them back in August. So come and see them again.
And has it ever been a time where you've already planned the next one and the first one just doesn't go
busts?
Well? Just busts.
I don't know if we've held anything in the can like that before, but we could see the momentum. He mentioned the flash sale for this April date that we did back in January, and we sold over 1,200 tickets in a 24-hour window. So we knew that the second single game tickets went on sale entirely March 1st, that it wasn't going to be a problem to sell this game. Fortunately, weather cooperated as well. It was a little chilly, but sunshine was out, and that helped as well.
I love that. Well, we're talking about innovation. Before we get too far along that lines, I do want to go back, because I hear we have the resident Indians historian on
put me on the spot
on the show here. But I mean, this is the oldest franchise in Indiana, correct? So 1902, I believe, is when the Indians started. So just give me a sense of what that means, and the history of the Indians. And I know there's some becoming affiliates, so we were with the Reds, and they were with another team, and then the Pirates.
We've bounced around a lot.
Yeah, so what that means, and just give us kind of an overview of the history of the Indianapolis Indians.
Yeah, so we go back to 1902. Used to play at a ballpark called East Washington Park. Played there just for 3 years and then moved to West Washington. So it was right on Washington Street.
Give me, so East Washington Street would have been obviously on the east side of
town, near East Side.
Okay.
And then the West Washington Park, if you're familiar with the Indianapolis Zoo location, that's where our second ballpark used to be seated.
So just down the street from where the current ballpark is.
Correct. So just across White River. We were there for 25 years, up through part of the 1931 season, and then where Randy's first job with the Indians came about as a ticket sales intern when he worked at Old Busch Stadium. Back then in 1931, it opened up in late August that year as Perry Stadium. Owner at the time was Norm Perry. He lost a brother in an aircraft accident and then ended up building the stadium and naming it in his brother's honor. So you had Perry Stadium. It lasted as Perry Stadium for 11, 12 years. 1942, right around World War II, as kind of a rallying cry for the United States, was renamed to Victory Field, held that name for 25 years, and then a guy by the name of Owen Doney Bush, that's where Busch Stadium came about. It was named in his honor. He played for us, he managed, he coached, he eventually worked his way up into basically Randy's role as president and GM of the club. So a guy who kind of saw the organization from playing and trying to win ball games all the way up to managing the team there in the 20s, 30s, and 40s.
And then that was Old Busch Stadium.
So Busch Stadium in 1967 was officially renamed, and then held that name all the way up until we moved to Victory Field in 96.
In the current location. So then when it switched back over here, it became Victory Field again?
Yes, it was Victory Field, and Randy would have a better sense of the move and what that was all about. In just, Busch Stadium, as nostalgic of a place as it was to probably work and play and welcome fans at 65 years old, you're going to get that because you have generations of fans coming to those games. The people that were coming in the 30s and 40s, they're now the grandparents bringing their kids or their grandkids 50, 60 years later. So just the generational aspect to baseball is awesome. But Randy, Victory Field and why that location was chosen, it was all just part of the revitalization of downtown.
Yeah, talk to us about that.
Yeah, and I think there were a couple reasons with Busch Stadium and the move. Two big ones were MLB in the early 90s came out with facility standards, meaning there had to be certain levels of your clubhouses, your field, just in general of what the ballpark they needed to meet. And Busch Stadium, again, was 65 years old. It basically Busch and Wrigley Field up in Chicago are microcosms of one another. They stole the ivy from Busch Stadium and planted that at Wrigley Field. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Wait. The Chicago Cubs stole the ivy from Busch Stadium in Indianapolis.
Busch Stadium had ivy on its walls, and they wanted the same thing at Wrigley Field.
Imitation's the best form of flattery. Also, ADA had just become a thing in the early 90s, and what I recall, again, I was an intern and a very young staffer, but it was going to cost about $16 or $17 million to upgrade Busch Stadium, a 65-year-old facility, and Victory Field was built for $18 million. So when you start weighing that, it's like, why are we not going to think about building a brand new ballpark? Go to downtown Indianapolis, because that's when the revitalization conversations about it not being nap town anymore, and to bring more people downtown in the convention industry and the hotels. Circle Center Mall opened in 1995. We opened up in 1996. What is now Gainbridge Fieldhouse opened up in 99. So you see some of those dominoes that fall. Even within Victory Field, we're part of White River State Park. A lot of people don't recognize that or realize that. So is the zoo, so is the Idle Jorg Museum and the Indiana State Museum and the NCAA Hall of Champions and all of that. And the zoo was in place within the park, then it became Victory Field. The Idle Jorg was already there, so it was three cornerstones, and then the rest of it started to fill in over time.
Talk to us about what that means, right? Because I had a conversation with someone from White River State Park, and they talked about Victory Field being part of that. Yeah. What does being in that collective kind of mean for you guys and for the downtown area?
It's a ballpark, right? So it fits within a park structure. It's a little weird that we're across the Washington-Maryland Street, I guess 6 or 8 lanes of traffic there. But it was land that was designated back, I don't know exactly the history on the White River State Park when the land started to be designated, but it made some sense. When we started construction on that site, it was just a mounded over gravel parking lot. And the way a baseball stadium, by the rule book, there can be changes to it, but you're supposed to open up to the northeast. And so that plot of land, Max Schumacher, I referenced him earlier, at the time was our president and GM. He was dead set on that piece of land, because when you open up northeast, it's going to go open up right to downtown Indianapolis. And at the time, it was the Bank One building, which is now Salesforce Tower, and then you got the backdrop. And so that was really there were other sites that were bandied about, and like any ballpark build, there was negotiations on different sites, but as the story is told, that was the site Max really desired and worked with. At the time, it was a Republican governor and a Democratic governor and a Republican mayor to make it all happen, which is, one, those roles are flipped from what you would think is traditional Indianapolis. But as always, people work together here in Indianapolis. It's what makes this city great, is that people come together for the common good, and Victory Field was it. And as some people have told me, they say, "Oh, how do you know if it's successful?" And you say a couple things. Well, the ballpark still, when you walk in, you'd be hard-pressed to know that it's 27 or 28 years old. And in general, this is as vague as you can be, but it works. It's become a cornerstone on that southwest side of downtown, and as the JW got built and everything else, it just shows that it works and how we're fit in with the city and with White River State Park and everything else. It's tremendous. So,
well, that's a great segue into just talking about the community, and one, how the Indians support the local community. I know you guys are doing a ton of stuff. I know you're doing a ton of collaborations. I can just to tease some things about happening at the IMS with some players, but all just how you guys pour into the community and how the community pours back into you, and what it means to be a part of this downtown Indianapolis community, the Indiana community as a whole. I'd love to hear you guys speak on that.
Yeah, I would say, pouring into the community, we draw annually, we're a top 5 finisher in minor league baseball for total attendance and average attendance year over year. I think it's the last 13 years combined now. We lead all of minor league baseball in overall attendance. So fans come out. But the biggest thing about our games, going back to it, but you mentioned the O'Neill Cruzes and the Paul Skeenses of the world that we get every now and then. That's not the driver of getting people to Victory Field. It's the fun, affordable, promotion-based entertainment that we offer, in that if we're 20 games below 500, the average fan walking through our gates is never going to know that we may be in last place. And if we're 20 games over 500, the average fan walking through is not going to know, oh, the Indians are in first place, and that's why I'm coming to tonight's game. So whereas the Colts and Pacers, they kind of have the highs and lows of either they're playing well and people want to go out and support, or they're in the basement and people don't want to go watch a bad team play. For us, it's, that's the nice thing about the baseball kind of being secondary. Yes, we are a baseball team. We still have to reinforce that. That's why we're all here. That's why we have the jobs that we have, and that's why we have the ballpark, that we play in. But just being able to bring people out and not have to focus on, oh man, we're on a 6-game losing streak. No one's going to show up tonight. You'll still get on a Saturday, Friday, Saturday night in June, July, August, you're going to have 9,000 plus in the park. And that's the great thing.
Yeah. And on the baseball aspect, and I'll answer your question on the community, we still have everybody that's wearing an Indians jersey currently, except you, but on the field in Victory Field, they're a top 2,000, 2,500 level baseball player in the entire world. They're the second level. The major leagues have 30 teams, 25-man rosters. Just do the math quickly. I would say that the Japanese league is pseudo
close to
AAA. There's some guys that are better, but you put it all together, they're really good players. It's just baseball is such a hard game to play and so specialized that they're in the minors honing their craft, or there's a thing or two that gets exposed when they go to the major leagues that just doesn't allow them to stay there full time. It's hard to describe, but people need to know when they do come to Victory Field, they're seeing real. I mean, we've got your average run-of-the-mill guy coming out of our bullpen right now throws 95 miles an hour. That's a standard anymore, and our guys meet that. It's just, can they hone in and develop their skills to get to the big league? We consider Victory Field a community gathering place. Yes, for 75 dates, it's Indians home games, but whether it's extra events, whether it's the Savannah Bananas or IU Ball State or the IHSAA State Baseball Championships or the other college and high school games that we host, to all the charity walks and runs, to private events or fundraisers like our own swing with Indians Charities, all those other things, the ballpark is open and available for that kind of stuff too. And that's very important to be a community gathering place. And that's really what we focus on being, is that community gathering place. It's for people of all walks of life to come together for a common goal, whether that's to watch a baseball game or to walk for cancer or whatever else it might be, and everything else in between. And that's what we really strive for. The other thing I'll mention is that we're still community owned. And that's a unique thing. We are owned by shareholders. There was a stock sale back in the
55.
Yeah, in 1955 to save the Indians. And I don't want to get into that whole story, but it was at $10 a share, which it goes on and on and on. But we currently have it's just over 700 shareholders that were community owned. So that's at our core from the mid-50s.
Do those currently trade?
They're not really traded on any, they're not listed anywhere.
So if we wanted to go buy a share of the Indians, we could not do that.
Bring your wallet.
Oh, buddy, come on. We'll trade sponsorship for shares of the Get In podcast, right?
Shane, I don't know.
I don't know.
We're going to need a few more listeners.
I know where those shares are at.
We're going to need a few more listeners.
They're hard to come by, that's for sure.
Oh, I love that. So community owned. So kind of like the Packers, right? Like, isn't that how that kind of works?
Great way to put it, yeah.
Okay.
And Syracuse used to be that way. The New York Mets bought Syracuse a few years ago. The only other one that I'm aware of in minor league baseball is Rochester, and I think they've been around the longest. We're the second longest tenured minor league baseball team.
Well, and that goes back to, basically when Max Schumacher started. It was right around that time of the sale. Max's first year was 1957. He played baseball at Butler. Max was a long time, started out as ticket sales manager, I believe, moved his way up just as Randy has, up to a president, GM, CEO type of title. But in the mid-50s, we were with the Cleveland Indians at the time. Early on, we had no major league affiliation. So the players, we went out and signed them, similar to like what the Indy 11 do, and they have tryouts and they fill out their roster. We had done that for about 35, 40 years before you were given or assigned a parent club. So the Boston Braves, right around World War II in the mid-40s, that was the first team we were affiliated with, to where we would directly funnel guys up to Boston. Then you mentioned all the different affiliates, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, back to Cincinnati, the White Sox, the Phillies. All over the place, we would be assigned a parent club.
And do most AAA teams now all have affiliates of some type?
Yes, you have an affiliate, but it's much more stable than it was back then. You used to be on 2 or 4 year agreements. Now, the Professional Development League, the PDL, the license actually runs through 2030. So our current affiliation, we've been with the Pirates since 2005. That runs all the way through the 2030 season. So those were just re-signed coming out of COVID and going into the 2021 season.
We are for sure the Pirates AAA affiliate until
through 2030.
And what does that mean? Let's talk, just double click in a little bit about being an affiliate, right? Because I feel like it would be really hard to go out there and sign top tier, you talk about the best players. It's like they want to get to the MLB, right? So being an affiliate probably helps you with talent because they're out and drafting players. But you wouldn't be. Would you be allowed in the draft, or how would that work if you weren't affiliated?
And that's the role that he touched on earlier.
Yeah. So when I was young, I would have thought I wanted to be that general manager of trading and signing players and all that. That is the one thing we don't do. We do everything else at Victory Field that you can imagine. We market, we sell, we operate, we maintain the facility, all that stuff. The only thing we don't do is when you see the players on the field, that is handled by the Major League affiliate. So there are 4 levels. There's AAA, AA, High A, and Single A. And the Major League team needs to have, in round numbers, 120 guys that they've put at those rosters. Say 30 guys assigned to each city. There's more than that, but we're just going to dumb it down to keep it simple. And then they assign them. And then they decide, hey, Nate's playing really well. We've got a gap up at second base or on the mound or behind the plate, whatever position you play. And we're going to decide to call Nate up to the big leagues. And in turn, that means somebody is either hurt, got traded, released, or been sent back down to Indianapolis. So we've had more transactions the last couple of years, record-setting, 80 or 85 different guys on our roster during the course of the year because there's so much transactions between injuries, non-performance, trades, releases, all that other stuff. But Pittsburgh is pulling all those levers. And then it's a domino effect. So if a guy from Indianapolis goes to the big leagues, someone's either coming back to us or then we got to fill somebody in from Altoona, which is the AA team, and then someone from the High A team.
Where is Altoona?
Just outside
Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh.
Altoona, Pennsylvania. Who's the High A and who's the Single A?
High A is Greensboro, North Carolina, and then Single A is Bradenton, which is down in where they're spring
Florida?
training. Yeah, Bradenton, Florida. So you get sunshine down there.
There we go. Okay.
So it's a very, and there's not a professional league other than MLB that has this system. The NBA has the G League. That's kind of the same thing as far as AAA to the major leagues, but no one else has it. And people say, well, why is that? I said it earlier. The game of baseball is the hardest game to play. I'm not dismissing to be a great athlete, to be a football player, a basketball player, but the nuances of the game of baseball are the hardest with all the rules, the skills, the mental, everything that goes into being a baseball player. It's the hardest game to play. You've got the defense, as Howard Kellman, our radio broadcaster, likes to say. It's the only sport where the defense starts with the ball. Think about that. No other game does the defense ever have the ball. The minute you get the ball in another sport, you become offense. That doesn't. So it just is a different mindset. It's the hardest game to play, and to develop all those skills to get to the top and highest level is extremely challenging.
In the roster movement that we have an opening day roster of 28 players. When we get to September, if 5 of those guys from the 28 we had on April 1st are still with the team, that's kind of the norm now. Being in AAA and being on that, basically the next step down from the big league club, is we have the most major league ready talent to fill in the gaps, as he just mentioned. If a guy gets hurt, we can plug and play a guy to fill that gap immediately. So 80, 85 players over the course of the season, 250 transactions. What is a transaction? That's simply one guy getting called up or promoted and another guy being sent down. That's 2 transactions because it's a swap. You've got 1 for 1.
Well, let's talk about, this is interesting. I'm going to take us on a little detour here because I'm intrigued. I'm fascinated about culture, right? You have this melting pot of a locker room, or what do you call it? Clubhouse. Melting pot of a clubhouse, right? Where you have young, hungry draft picks like Paul Skeens, and you have someone coming down who's not performing at a high level, like getting basically kicked out of Major League Baseball. How do you manage the culture of a clubhouse when you have high hopes and you have, some low lows?
So
that's above our pay grade. I'm managing that.
Yeah, it goes to, so we have our field manager, and we've got a couple hitting coaches and pitching coaches, but really the manager's job in AAA is probably the hardest in all of professional sports, because they're having to manage all of that. Young studs coming up. There's always a level of bitterness when you get sent from, you reach your dream of playing in Pittsburgh in Major League Baseball, and then whether it's 3 days, 2 weeks, or a couple months, and you're told, hey, you need to go back down. I mean, the best way I describe it is, imagine being juggled between, in Indiana, it makes a lot of sense because everyone understands basketball, right? Imagine going between JV and varsity, JV and varsity, JV and varsity. It's very similar to that in a lot of respects. At a higher level, they're getting paid. I get it, but to give you that feeling of how that is, and so it's very delicate to manage all of that. Because and the old saying goes, and that the players get reminded is, though, you are where your feet are. Because if you're in Indianapolis and you're wishing or thinking you should be in Pittsburgh, the game will eat you alive. The talent is still, it's high level enough at AAA that if your mind's not right and your mind isn't where your feet are, you're going to get eaten up, and that's just going to further snowball against you. So it's that mental grind. It's the hardest thing ever, and a AAA manager has to try to balance all of that of how long does a guy get to sulk or be concerned about himself versus then getting back to work on those things for the reasons why they told him that he came back. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, we work with those players, our comms department, creative marketing. We have a consistent presence in the clubhouse to where we're working with these athletes almost daily, at least when they're at home. So as a guy is first arriving to AAA, and it's the young, it's Paul Skeens or it's Nick Gonzalez or any of these other just young talents that are on the rise and they haven't gotten that taste in the big leagues yet, they're mostly excited to be in AAA because it's another step that they're that much closer. Now they're just one step away from their ultimate dream of reaching the big leagues. It's when they go up. So we see a guy, and we've seen it, he's done it for 30 years. I've done it for 11 years, but not that long in AAA, but where you see a guy first arrive to AAA, then he accomplishes his dream and he gets told, hey, you're going to Pittsburgh or you're going to the big leagues. He goes there for a couple days, a week, a month, a full season. If he struggles, he comes back. Seeing their first arrival to then being sent down, it can break guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, it truly can, and it just changes. And then how we interact with them on when they first show up, we want to spew them all over our social channels, and we want to celebrate their success. And hey, Pittsburgh, get ready because this guy's coming. Well, then they go up there, and if they struggle, then we see him come back, and we're not going to that guy anymore because we know those conversations are a little tougher. We know that their head does it. We don't want to be the distraction to them. We want them to come back and ultimately have everyone succeed and get back to Pittsburgh or any of the other 29 major league teams.
I don't think that the community, the listeners, understand that, because we just talked about how it's more than baseball. Like, from a fan's perspective, it doesn't matter if you know what the record is or not. We go in there to have a good time and to get this product that is the baseball, but it is the bluey, right? It's like all this stuff. But from what you're seeing on the field perspective, this is their life. This is their livelihood. You talk about achieving your ultimate dream. Maybe a little kid is listening in the car right now, and mom and dad are have it playing, and they want to be an MLB player one day. It's like they achieve their dream, and then they come back down, and they're playing, but then there's also a promo for a cartoon character going on in the field.
Or they're wearing a Marvel superheroes jersey.
Yeah,
they don't do that in the major leagues.
No.
That's a balancing act. A really big balancing act. Which is, I just don't think that all of us normal non-AAA baseball folks put that in perspective.
If you're not in it, it's hard to understand, but just seeing you open up to it and have a little glimpse of what it is like. That's what we see pretty much every day.
Okay, that's fascinating. I'm glad we took that little segue because I'm learning so much about it. And that's what this is all about. It's uncovering these stories so that when people go into Victory Field for a $2 Thursday, what is it? Thirsty Thursday.
Tuesday dollar menu.
I did see that, which I respect. So the Fuel took dollar hot dogs off of their dollar menu. Not Victory Field.
No.
You guys still have the dollar hot dogs, which I respect. As a proud guy, will take in $10 and have to be rolled out of there. I just think this was such an eye-opening experience for when people go to Victory Field to know that, hey, on the field, this is people trying to accomplish their dreams, or maybe coming off of accomplishing their dreams and now trying to work back up there. That's a big deal. As well as it's more than baseball. It's more than just going there to watch a game because there are these activations, and you're in the entertainment business. So, wow, that's just a ton. Well, I know we have about 10 minutes left. I have some fun questions where I just want to we're going to open up and we're just going to talk about some interesting things. in and around Victory Field, baseball. The one question I do before we kind of segue into that is what's just one thing that you want people to know about the Indians or Victory Field that they probably don't?
The effort that goes into maintaining the ballpark. Again, we talk about the players, how much we care about the facility. We also promote the facility tremendously. We get people from out of town of all kinds for varying reasons. And we just had a group in, I was meeting with a car dealer group, had a suite, and they had some high-level folks in from Chicago. And we were just talking, and they asked, so how old is this place, like 10 or 12 years? And I said, no, it was built in 1996, and their jaws about hit the table because they just couldn't believe the way the ballpark looks and feels. And as we've made adjustments and additions to the ballpark, whether it's the Yingling Landing or the Corona Premier Patio or the Elements Financial Club, they all fit. We've done a really nice job as an organization that as we've maintained the ballpark, but as we've added and made premium spaces and other nice spaces and gathering spaces, they fit with the ballpark. They look like they were originally designed. And that's really hard to do sometimes, but we're very intentional about that. But we also work really hard to take care of it. Most people don't understand what it means and what it takes behind the scenes to do that, and it's something we're really proud of.
Yeah, I'll go to one thing internally. You know, we've got 55 full-time staff members, close to 15 seasonal interns that basically are here February 1 through end of September. Game day interns on top of that. Aramark, our concessionaire, filling every concession stand. So on a typical game day, the number of hands that make it work, what would you estimate? 200?
On Sunday, 200 to 250.
200 to 250 employees from top to bottom to activate the ballpark for 3 to 4 hours, from gates open to the final out and the final person. When we say gates closed, ballpark's empty.
Yeah, do the math on that. 250 to 12. What's a sellout? How big is the stadium?
13,750.
That's an interesting employee to attendee ratio.
Yeah,
and a lot of those people are seasonal, and we get unbelievably repeat employees that come back year over year just because they love what Victory Field's about, the atmosphere, the culture that's there, and they're such an important part of what we do. That gets lost. Now, that is also a beauty of having Lucas Oil Stadium and Gainbridge Fieldhouse and all the other venues that we have in town, because those folks that like to do that, whether they're retired or they're teachers in the summertime or whatever else it is, they also can work at those other venues because Indianapolis has got so much.
Soon to be 11 Park, right? Just down the street from you all.
Yeah.
That I'm excited about that one.
We are too.
It's going to be, I mean, that little corridor over there.
Stadium District.
Yeah, Stadium District. I like that. Great. Well, let's get into some fun questions, just like things that I was thinking about as I was prepping for our interview today. So one is, are you guys potentially the only baseball franchise partnered with a Native American tribe? Can we talk about that? Can we talk about the Miami Nation of Indians of Indiana?
We are not.
Really? Okay.
No, Spokane in the state of Washington are the Spokane Indians as well, and they have. We did speak with them during our process that would have started, I guess it was 4 or 5 years ago. So they were very valuable. They developed a partnership with it's actually the Spokane tribe up in Washington, in the state of Washington. So that was a bit of a guide and a model for us. But no, we've been partnered with the Miami Nation for 2 years now. Had our first Native American Heritage Night last year. We've got our second one coming up on May 17th this year. It's been fantastic. We've learned a lot. I would say that how important their history, their culture and family is to the Miami tribe, and what that means is something that has been incredibly powerful to learn more about, and we're anxious and excited to help to continue to tell their story.
Oh, I love that. And it's like, as you dive into the history of Indiana, I'm from northern Indiana, and I remember we did field trips to like Indian Kettles where like the glaciers would, it's fascinating. Like all the different names, especially, I think it's predominantly northern Indiana, but that's just because where I'm used to and where I'm from, like Potawatomi and Tippecanoe and all of these different places up there it's just super fascinating, the history of the Native Americans in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, we've sent some staff members up to Peru, which is where this Miami Nation has their headquarters, and meeting with Chief Buchanan and some of their other staff members that have come down to Victory Field both ways. We've gone up there to see what their setup is like, what needs do they have, and then they come down to Victory Field, and it's like, how can we welcome you guys into this space? Because where Victory Field sits is built on their ancestral lands, essentially. So we have a land acknowledgement that's read pregame every night now, regardless of the one night a year where we have Native American Heritage Night. But to bring them down, for them to educate fans, for them to have tents out in the center field plaza with, just feathers and drums, ceremonies, and everything going on, just as kind of a wholesome experience for people who come out that night.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think that's a super awesome partnership, an unconventional but super awesome partnership there that we're glad it came to fruition. Okay, let's talk some more. This is fun stuff around Victory Field. I'm going to ask each one of you to go through this. What is your Victory Field summer bucket list?
I have 2 big dogs at home, and my wife be a little tougher for them to bring them here over the next couple of months. But we have 5 or 6 bark in the park nights every summer. So we bring our pups down. I usually take one of those nights off and just to be able to help and get the dogs around. But we had our first one just this last homestand, and the left and center field lawn was sold out. I mean, there were 200 plus dogs out on the lawn with their owners. And that's just a fun way for people to experience the ballpark. A seat that I think is kind of overlooked a little bit. I'm not going to go to our club space because I've been up there. You were up there for the wedding reception that Lizette and I had up there a couple of years ago.
Incredible.
Randy was up there too. I know he had to get out of there a little early. He didn't want to see what happened on field. So he got out around 10. But the club space is great, but the Yingling landing down in the left field corner is just a different angle on the field that you're not usually accustomed to. You're going to be in the seats third base side or maybe behind home plate, or you're in the club or you're in a suite. But to be nestled down in the third base corner, it is a premium ticket. You've got a little table down there. You've got wait staff in a specialized menu. And then the drinks down there as well. The cocktails that we have down there are fabulous.
I think that is one of the only bars inside the field that serves Coors Light, my beer of choice. I very much enjoy the Yingling Landing. Okay, so bucket list would be hit up a bark in the park, and then get a ticket to the Yingling Landing.
Sit in the landing. And then the third one is just enjoy a game on the lawn, aside from a bark in the park night. The beautiful thing about sitting on the lawn and just how relaxed it is. I sat out there a couple of times on nights that I've taken off, and it's like, okay, I want to go experience the game as a fan.
Can we talk about that on your nights off?
On my nights off, I'm still going.
Like, what employees do you know that like, yeah, on my day off, I'm going to go into work?
You finally get to experience the game as a fan, and you're not being run around or you're down on field doing the pregame or whatever it might be, but sitting on the lawn, throwing a blanket out. You can pack your own cooler too, which I think is something that fans don't understand.
Nate, no alcohol. You perked up. No, none of that.
You can pack your own cooler.
I thought I just got the ultimate Victory Field hack.
We are a business, Nate.
Okay, but I could bring
you can
sandwiches.
Yeah, if you want to save $1, especially for families with kids and whatnot, throw a blanket out. Basically, picnic at the park with non-alcoholic beverages.
Wait, can you bring in food?
You can bring in food.
Yeah. Can I just walk in with a pizza? If I just had a pizza,
in a cooler, probably, yeah.
No,
bring in a box of pizza.
Security's going to open up, take a look, and they might take a slice or a bite. But other than that,
that's a hidden gem in downtown Indianapolis.
Absolutely.
You can bring in food to Victory Field to the lawn.
It's in our lease. It's a part of our requirement. And
guys,
but again, that you talk when I first started, I worked in the ticket office, and people were like, "Lawn? You're going to make me buy a ticket?" And then I have to sit on the ground. I mean, this is 27, 28 years ago. And now for families, it's arguably our most popular spot.
I go only lawn. It's very rare that I'll have like a ticket because it's like we're hanging out at that.
That's right.
I did almost catch a home run one time. I was on the big screen. I enjoyed it very much.
Well, there was one. You made our social channels too. A guy made a catch at the wall, and you were like,
it was the opposing team. He was, and I was like, drop it. No.
We like your fandom, Nate.
Yeah, I'm a diehard fan. Okay, what is your favorite Victory Field ballpark memory?
If you say opening it, that's kind of cliche, but it was such a dramatic transformation for our franchise. At Busch Stadium, we gave away a lot of tickets, sold corporate buyout nights. We've had to convert, and again, this goes back a really long time, but had to change that mindset. Those first couple of years where people had to buy tickets, not just for the lawn, but it didn't used to be that way at Busch Stadium. People bought some season tickets and things like that, but to change that entire mindset. But that was called, Max called it a lifetime, or a challenge of a lifetime when we made that move in a mid-season to go from, we basically doubled our attendance. We used to do about 300,000. I don't know how much of that was paid way back in the day, but now it's 600,000 paid tickets. And we're doing unbelievable numbers from that. So that was a massive transformation. So for me, it's hard not to say that first night that we opened, and the ballpark wasn't even completely done, but we needed to open on July 11th of 1996. So for me, that was the feather in the cap. But there's so many other special things that we've done at Victory Field, but that's the one that's going to immediately jump out to me, and it's kind of an easy answer for me.
Yeah, I would say the first game that we played in 2021, after basically taking, 18 months of just being dormant, of no Indians baseball. We started to activate a little bit midsummer in 2020 as Governor Holcomb, things started to open up in Marion County and in the state of Indiana. But having that first game in early May, because we got kicked back as they wanted, players and coaches and full-time staffers to be vaccinated if they could, because that would just make it a little easier for clubhouse access and things of that nature. But having that first game, even though we were operating at 25% capacity in May of 2021, was a powerful night. And then as the state opened up more and the county opened up more and you could have larger gatherings, once we got to 100% on July 1st, it was like, we're back. And now seeing that gradual, okay, we're further and further removed from 2020 and COVID-19, and that now we feel as good as ever, and that we're all the way back. We're far enough away from that and everything going on and people just being hesitant on coming out that now you see it on Sunday. In April game and Sunday, we have our largest non-opening day crowd on record at Victory Field, and there's just more to come of that.
Largest non-opening day
in April ever
in
at
April.
Victory.
Okay.
In April, yeah. But close to 12,000.
That's the bingo and bluey effect.
Yeah, because April's not a month that really draws from us. There's two other things I thought of as Cheyne was talking. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention during the Super Bowl in 2012 when DirecTV came in and put in a 65,000 square foot tent in our outfield and did the Celebrity Beach Bowl and then the Super Saturday Night Concert.
Katy Perry performed.
And then the New England Patriots used it as their place for their post-game party after they lost to the Giants when they were on the pursuit to perfection.
You had Rob Gronkowski on there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was so that.
I literally had a question: most famous player at the Vic, and I'm guessing it might be the Patriots.
Pretty close.
Yeah,
Tom Brady was at the Vic.
Tim Tebow came through.
Yeah,
I do remember that one.
Baseball player, Verlander came through. Kurt Schilling pitched after the Red Sox broke their curse and won the World Series in 2004 to open up the 2005 season, our first year with the Pittsburgh Pirates. We had their top prospect, Zach Duke, pitching against Kurt Schilling. He was rehabbing from, if you remember, he had the blood on his sock in the World Series the previous year in 2004. He was on a major league rehab assignment and started the opening day for us in 2005 at Victory Field. So that's kind of a cool thing.
This is our lightning round. We're going to go quick. I want to know, what's your guys' concession order at Victory Field?
I'm a hot dog guy. We sell beers and hot dogs. Our hot dogs are awesome. Whether they're $1 on Tuesday nights or on a Friday night, get a hot dog or a hot dog at the homestand.
All right. Hot dog at a homestand and a beer. Boom. That's a deadly combo.
I'm all about the signature chicken sandwich. Concession stand behind section 112. Get them while they're hot. Get them while they're fresh.
Signature chicken sandwich.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And a beer, of course.
And a beer.
And a beer.
And a beer bat. Are those coming back this year?
Oh, yeah. They're there.
Oh, we got beer bats? All right. Favorite event that Victory Field hosts that's not a baseball game?
I'll say swing. He mentioned it earlier, but all the different events that we are able to host now, we have the premium spaces, but swing, first introduced just last September, is our signature charity event for our nonprofit Indianapolis Indians Charities. It was a 1930s themed party. It's coming back on September 27th this year when our season wraps up. People had a chance, live music down on the field. We had restaurant partners, up to 40 of them, activating out of concession stands, St. Elmo, just across the board, every concession stand, free food. There's a ticket that comes with it, but it all goes to our nonprofit, and we're excited to get in a year or two of that, but swing was a great time.
I love that. And 1930s themed, what made you guys become 1930s themed?
That was kind of the era, the bygone era of baseball, in that you were in the Great Depression at that time. pre-World War II, but people dressed up when they went to baseball games. I mean, we have some photos in our archives of suit and tie going to a game at Busch Stadium. There's old black and white photos. I'll send them to you.
There we go.
But it's just a different way that people attended the game. So it's kind of like dress up like that, look sharp, and come out and enjoy the ballpark in a new way.
Randy, favorite non-baseball event at Victory Field?
Nate, it's baseball, but it's not professional baseball. But we host the IHSA state finals every year, or at least we want to if our schedule allows, and we have. Shane knows the numbers, but it's virtually since, all years but one, I think, since we've been at Victory Field. That's an important thing. We're in the state capital. We think we have the best baseball facility. We should host the state championships, and we're honored to do so.
I love that. That's a great answer. I do have a question. This is just a general, because I think there's something behind this, but I'm not positive. What are the trees in the outfield? They just seem like poorly placed trees, and where I really want to be standing at during a game.
How much you want to open up, Randy?
Well,
that's our batter's eye.
Yeah, it is our batter's eye. Again, it was a ballpark, and it was meant to bring a park-like feel to an urban environment. Candidly, they've never been a very great batter's eye. They're not in great shape. We always think about what's next at Victory Field, trying to find the right development for that piece of our property is something that we constantly think about. There's a few things we've had to do to meet. There's a new set of Major League Baseball facility standards. We redid our field. We had to expand our visiting clubhouse this offseason. There's a couple other things that we need to do infrastructure-wise, but the next development piece will probably be somewhere out in that batter's eye area.
Let me just put something on your radar. I was down in Austin for a baseball game at the University of Texas. Mm-hmm. They have this thing called the Yeti Yard, which is like a cocktail lounge within the outfield there.
Was it in center field?
Yeah. It's maybe center, maybe left field, somewhere in there, but you can you can look through the fence and watch the game, and it's like a little bar scene out there.
Premium spot.
I'm just saying, Victory
So you're
Field,
at ground level?
You're at ground level just looking out there, and it's just like a party. And
That's cool.
Yeti's in Austin, and they sponsor it.
That's
so
cool.
You might be on to something.
Hey
there.
guys, all I'm saying is if that comes around, we're gonna link it back to this, and
We'll do this podcast live from that space. How about that?
and have a few beer bats, right?
There we go.
Okay, wrapping this up. Are the Indians going to become an MLB team?
No.
All right, that was easy.
Yeah, the Cincinnati would never. We're in the Cincinnati market and territory. Mm-hmm. They would never let that happen.
Okay, that makes sense, honestly. And then St. Louis is right there. Chicago's.
Detroit,
we are in a tough
yeah.
spot with we just got a lot of baseball.
swallowed up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about this? Is there a potential for a partnership with a FanDuel or a DraftKings so I can place bets on Indianapolis Indians games?
We could do partnerships. Currently, they do not run minor league games with that kind of action. Minor league baseball is more about player development than it is winning and losing. And I would say this, if you're betting on minor league baseball, Nate, we need to have a conversation.
All I'm saying is I'm trying to find the Paul Skeens case.
Yeah,
prop.
well.
Take the over.
Yeah. Okay. Final thing. These are the questions that I ask on every guest. It's just some Indiana fun facts, some trivia here. Not even trivia, just trivia for you. So I'll start here with Shane, then we'll go Randy, then we'll go Randy, Shane. 3 questions.
Yep.
Shane, what is Indiana known for?
Hoosier hospitality. Easy answer. But it expands to the Midwest. Being from Iowa and now being here, yes, I'm 6 hours from my native, where I am from, but that's what I love about Indiana is just the people. People are great.
Amen. Randy, what is Indiana known for?
I'd say speed. Most people bring up the speedway and things like that, but just our pace has picked up. I think Indiana is ready to evolve as a leader, whether it's biotech, everything here that 16 Tech is about, all those other things, that's what's next for Indiana.
Yeah, speed as in Paul Skeens fastball as well.
That too.
Right.
Nice.
That quick.
Okay, Randy, what is a hidden gem in Indiana?
Fort Wayne.
Oh,
because I'm from there. Actually, Fort Wayne's in their downtown area is, if we're going statewide, their downtown area with the 3 rivers and everything they've done with the development, Fort Wayne is awesome. I'll always give a shout out to our friends with the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. They do an awesome job in downtown Fort Wayne at their ballpark at Parkview Field. They do a great job.
Are they an affiliate of someone?
They are the San Diego Padres, believe it or
That's
not, and they
crazy.
are the high A affiliate.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, they have the Electric Works district in Fort
Yes.
Wayne. It's like
They've done
rapidly expanding.
They've done really great work up there.
Fort Wayne, hidden gem. I love that one. Shane, what is a hidden gem in Indiana?
What's Sultan's Run down in Jasper? Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Sultan's Run down in Jasper.
Beautiful
One of
course.
the greatest courses I've played here in Indiana.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a hike. It's an overnight. What's the German restaurant in town?
Schnitzelbank.
The Schnitzelbach in Jasper. You
Yes.
got to hit it up.
Yes, I've been
So
so
good.
many requests to like do a deep dive into Jasper. There's a very interesting history of
Lots
how
going on
Jasper
there.
was
Oh, absolutely.
founded. We're gonna have to do a deep dive on that. But the Schnitzelbach and Sultan's Run,
Correct.
in Jasper. I love it. Finally,
By the
gentlemen,
way, they play great baseball down that way too.
Scott Rowland,
Yeah.
there we go.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer. There you go. Final question of the lightning round. Shane, who is someone we need to keep on our radar? Someone who is doing big things in the Hoosier State.
I might be looking at him. Not to make you blush, but I think
he's
what
blushing.
No, I think
Randy?
what no, not this guy. He's done big things. I think I think what you are doing is it's a different message that you're delivering. Yes, we were bringing you on this summer to come out and enjoy some Indians baseball games, but where you were at back in January compared to where you're at now when we first had those conversations and where you're going, I think is really exciting. And the way that you liven people up, you are so active on LinkedIn. You have an energy about you that is it's addicting for people to be around. It's why I coach with you. It's why I'm still here. So
I'm going to have to bring Shane back on and make me feel good.
I'll be your hype
I
man.
appreciate that. We're just telling Indiana stories,
That's
which are
it.
fun. Randy, who is someone in Indiana that we need to keep on our radar? Someone who is doing big things.
I lean towards people on our staff, and I lump that entire group together because we have such a talented staff. We all we fly under the radar, but what we do all year round and to drive people and events to that community gathering place at Victory Field, I'm going to say somebody on our staff. I don't know who that's going to be. It could be Shane. It could be Matt Gay, our new GM, Joel Zawalki, our Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer. But it's up and down the organization. There's going to be a lot of great things coming out of Victory Field, and somebody from our staff is going to be doing some great stuff.
I love it. This was a spectacular episode. Thank you so much for just diving and explaining a little bit about the magic that goes into the product of the Indianapolis Indians. It was super enlightening for me. I'm excited to come out for a Thirsty Thursday, maybe a $1 Tuesday, a half-priced Wednesday. There's a lot of promos, people. If we wrap up, what is, just give us a little, 30-second commercial. What's going on with the Indians? What do people need to keep on their radar? How can we support you all and what you're doing?
Well, going to IndyIndians.com, first and foremost, just seeing everything going on from tickets, if you want premium tickets in the club or landing, seeing what's going on with the team, where they're at in the standings, if you care about things like that. But promos that we have coming up, we have Prospects weekends with some giveaways where we focus on our affiliation with the Pittsburgh Pirates. We have team autographs on a couple of Saturdays in mid-May and early June. I want to get to just the end of the season, Razor Shines weekend. He mentioned him. He had a chance to see him play a little bit over at Busch Stadium, but he was here in the 80s and early 90s, which was the golden era of Indianapolis Indians baseball in terms of winning championships and winning division titles, winning league championships, and being the best in AAA. And fans adored him. He was here for 9 years. We are retiring his number at the end of the season. He's the first Indianapolis Indian in team history to have his number retired. That's Saturday, September 14th. So if you want to come out, meet an all-time legend, he's the Peyton Manning or Reggie Miller of our organization. That's the date to circle on the calendar.
Amazing. I love it. Anything else, Randy?
No, I was going to reiterate, Shane's worked really hard on Razor, and that was a time in Indianapolis in the late 80s, early 90s. The Colts were just in their infancy here, and they hadn't built up the fan following, and the Pacers were coming off some tough times, and Razor had his own commercial in the market. That won't happen again with a minor league baseball player, but that's how popular that he was. And he's just got the name and the PA announcement and everything else.
Can't beat a name like Razor Shines.
You can't. And it's just like this whole thing that came together. But then he produced on the field. He's one of the greatest clutch players in Indianapolis Indians history, and he won championships with all those teams over the course of, I think he won 5 and 6 years. So amazing stuff. Shane gets all the credit for that. He's worked really, really hard on that. That's that history part that we talked about. He's amazing at that kind of stuff. And he's brought Razor full circle, and that's going to be an awesome weekend.
Director of Comms / Indianapolis Indians historian. I love it. Gentlemen, this was great. I will say, if you're ever looking for someone to throw out a first pitch, maybe we make a little friendly wager. If one of these clips gets 100,000, 200,000 views, get in there and throw a first pitch. I could smoke one
You're talking to the right guy.
43 miles an hour just outside.
Nate, if you get that,
All right.
that's a done
Here
deal.
it is.
That's a done deal.
100,000 views on this clip, and I get to throw out a first pitch at an Indianapolis Indians game.
Absolutely.
Bang. Mic drop. Let's go. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
And we'll see you out at the ballpark.
You bet.
Thanks, Nate.